Hey guys, Bert here. Welcome back to the channel, and today we are actually looking at Bayshore District's first private condo, the upcoming Vela Bay. So most people looking at Vela Bay are actually asking, is it actually worth buying? And honestly, that's a very fair question. But the way I usually approach projects like this is a bit different, because Vela Bay isn't really a typical condo launch. It's less about what you see today and more about whether you're comfortable with what this area could become. What I like to do is just walk through this step by step. We'll start with the bigger picture, what's actually happening in the Bayshore area, and then we'll zoom into the project itself, look at how it's designed, how the layouts work, and also how it compares to the surrounding condos. And towards the end, we'll talk about the most important thing, pricing, and how to think about whether this actually makes sense. Now, before we even talk about the project itself, I think it's very important for us to take a step back first, because Vela Bay sits in an area that's actually very unique. So Bayshore actually isn't really a mature estate, but it's also not exactly an emerging one either. It's more like a planned town that is still coming together. And when I look at areas like this, I usually think about them in different phases. You have a typical announcement phase, a construction phase, and eventually an infrastructure phase. So the Thomson-East Coast Line MRT, which is the Bayshore MRT, was completed in 2023 and is already operational. So in a way, we have gone through the construction phase. And what's happening now is we are gradually building towards the infrastructure phase, which is building up the surrounding infrastructure like the BTOs, upcoming condo, and even a potential integrated transport hub. So when you look at Vela Bay today, you're entering at a point where the backbone is already there, but the area itself is still forming. And depending on where you're comfortable entering, this can either feel like it is a good point to come in early, or maybe is it a little too soon. And another thing that's quite interesting about this location is the surrounding area today. Today, if you look at the Upper East Coast Road, it's actually quite different from what people think of as East Coast. A lot of this stretch is landed housing, low-rise developments, and generally a little bit more laid back and quieter. So in a way, this is sometimes seen as the less East Coast part of the East Coast. And that's exactly why the Bayshore transformation is quite significant, because what's being introduced here is actually something very different. You're going from a low-density, land-dominated area to, wow, today, potentially a new residential town. And that kind of shift doesn't just change the project, it changes the entire character of the area over time. So now let's zoom into the project itself and look at how it's actually designed. So when you look at the site plan, one thing stands out quite clearly. The blocks are arranged in a sort of a V-shaped formation. And this is quite intentional because instead of having the stacks facing each other directly, the layout is slightly angled. So what this does is it reduces direct facing units and opens up view corridors. And it actually allows more units to face towards the sea, which is what the developer is actually trying to attain with more than 70% of units facing the sea. And if you look at the stacks along this side, these are the ones that are more likely to enjoy clearer sea views, whereas the stacks facing the opposite direction are more likely to look towards the landed housing in the Upper East Coast area. So this creates a very clear contrast within the same project. In a project like this, two units in the same development can feel completely different depending on the direction they face. And this is where the trade-off comes in, because in order to enjoy the open sea views, you are going to be also closer to the ECT. And this is actually something quite characteristic of this stretch of the East Coast. So it's more of a location trade-off. So it really becomes a balance of between the view, privacy, and the noise. So with that in mind, let's take a closer look at the layouts. So as with recent developments that we have seen, developers have actually tried to cut down on the one-beders. So there's actually only one stack of one-bedder in Vela Bay. For the two-beders, they start from around the 592 square feet, which would probably be the 2-bedroom, 1-bath configuration. And from there, it's actually quite a noticeable jump to about 678 square feet for the premium bigger 2-bed, 2-bath. For the 3-bedders, you also see a fairly significant jump. The compact version comes in at about 893 square feet and jumps straight into the premium version at about 1033 square feet. So it looks like the developer is segmenting the product quite clearly. So more compact options for affordability and larger layouts for buyers who need more space. And one interesting thing here is that it seems like the traditional study options may have been removed, possibly replaced with more flexible spaces. So what I'll do now is just quickly walk through a few of the layouts. So this is a 2-bedroom premium layout at 689 square feet, which is the bigger version of the 2-bed. So it comes with 2 beds, very practical, 2-bedroom dumbbell layout, 2 bathrooms on either side. So this also comes with a galley kitchen, but if you notice right from other floor plans that you have seen, the distance between galley kitchen to the wall is actually quite far away. So it gives you actually the option of possibly enclosing this area with options to still move, because if you can see the fridge is here, so obviously there's going to be more space for you to walk around. Another option which you can consider to do is to build up a small island kitchen here if you do a lot of hosting. And what I like as well is that when the developer built this 2-bed, 2-bath, it swings a little bit different from other layouts that you have seen, where it also gives you the dumbbell, Jack and Jill sort of door to the common bathroom. So when you have friends, relatives coming in, they don't have to actually go through one to the common bedroom to get to the bath, and even the common bedroom is now actually even also en suite. So Vela Bay is actually built using the APCS system, whereby not all walls are actually full concrete walls. So what you see here, the thinner walls here are actually hackable, which means that if you are buying this as a single young couple and you don't need actually 2 bedrooms but want a bigger space, the wall to the common bedroom can actually be hacked away to turn this actually into a super huge living room. Okay, so we come into the 3-bedroom premium, the bigger of the 3-bedroom layouts, 1033 square feet. As you can see, of course, 3-bedroom, you have 3 bedrooms lah, and all 3 bedrooms will be able to fit a king bed, queen bed comfortably. Entering into the foyer, you have this private space where it gives you the privacy where no one actually can look into your living room. Enclosed kitchen, you have a household shelter, you have a third toilet for the helper, and you have a yard area for you to actually hang your clothes. Now you want to put a steigen, there's actually a space to put it there. Dedicated dining area, sits 6 comfortably. Of course, a 3-seater sofa with a good distance to the wall. So as you can see, developer is trying to maximize views for all the bedrooms. Thereby, they've actually put in all 3 bedrooms in a whole row. Of course, this also means that you will have a longer corridor, which is not as efficient as you want it to be. So it's actually again a trade-off whether you want the views or you want a more efficient layout. And of course, again, the APCS system allows you to hack away this wall to make it into a huge master bedroom, potentially with a walk-in wardrobe as well. So now we come to the 5-bedroom layout standing at 1582 square feet. Now, do keep in mind, this is actually not the largest layout there is. There are actually 2 other penthouses, which is actually a lot larger than this. 5-bedroom would actually give you a private lift with a private lift foyer. The APCS, again, the precast concrete system, allows you to actually hack this to open up the whole living dining area into a much larger space. And of course, you have the helper's toilet at the back as well. So with the private lift lobby, of course, you are going to have a service foyer for all your food delivery, all your Taobao, Grab and all that lah. So you have the household shelter, and what I like is the door is actually in the kitchen itself, and of course the helper toilet at the back. You get a longish kitchen and also the yard area here. And we come to the living area. So very comfortable 8-10 seater, you can actually stretch. Again, like I mentioned, if you hack this away, this can actually stretch and this can actually be more open space for you. Very large L-shaped sofa can sit 5 to 6 as you can see. And also, if you notice, right, there is actually a junior master here, and most developments where you see the layout where it has a junior master, room is actually quite small. But when you see this layout, there's actually quite a big space over here for you to probably put a side table, even maybe a study table, dressing table if you want to. And of course, attaches to the junior bath. And again, Vela Bay is all about views. So you have all 3 bedrooms here, you have the junior master here. So what happens? Developer actually has put a window here for bedroom 5 which cascades into the back. So actually from here, there is actually also a sea view to the bedroom. And what's interesting is that your master bedroom is huge, walk-in wardrobe. And if you want to have an even more luxurious walk-in wardrobe, you can actually close off this door, hack away this wall, and turn this whole thing into your master suite, which is super huge, right? Wife definitely will love it, right? So the 5th bedroom actually caters towards a larger household. And overall, this is a project that prioritizes efficiency and functionality rather than large expensive space. Wow, so contradictory. So now let's take a step back and look at how Vela Bay actually fits within the surrounding market. And when you map out the surrounding condos, you start to notice something quite interesting. This is not one single market, it's actually a progression of how the area has been. On the Bayshore stretch, you get the Bayshore Park, which is a lot older, and Costa del Sol. And they range between about 1,003 to 2,000 per square foot. For comparison, we will also be looking at seaside residences, which TOP in about 2020. And this will be a more modern comparison compared to what Vela Bay will be today. And seaside residences has actually been transacting at around 2,300 per square foot already. And if we adjust seaside to today's equivalent, we're looking at around 2,700 plus per square foot. And interestingly, there was a recent transaction at around 2,734 per square foot. So the market is already testing that range. And if you're currently looking at Vela Bay or comparing options in the east, this is where things start to get a bit more nuanced. And if you want a clearer picture based on your situation, feel free to reach out and I'm happy to walk through it with you. And that brings us back to Vela Bay. So instead of asking, is it expensive? It's actually really, am I comfortable entering at this stage? Now let's talk about pricing a bit more directly. Land costs have been rising. For example, the Dover Road GLS site was actually awarded at around 1,556 per square foot per plot ratio. And we've already seen strong demand with Pioneer Residences launching at an average take-up rate of 2,550 per square foot. So the market is actually already adjusting. So it's less about price and more about the positioning of the development itself. So before wrapping up, I think it's also important to look at this from the other side. Now, this is still a developing area, and you've got BTOs, a possible transport hub, and more plots coming out. And this is not the final version of the area. So there will be construction activity in the earlier years. And when it comes to noise, it's not just from the ECP. It's a location trade-off, and also from nearby construction as the area develops. Like what you hear right now, where we are today. So the environment may feel more active before it actually settles. And there will also be more supply coming. So it becomes a balance between entering early or again waiting for more certainty. So when it comes to Vela Bay, it really comes down to how you see this area. You're not just buying a unit, you're buying into the future of Bayshore. If you're comfortable entering early, this could actually be quite interesting. If not, you feel, hey, maybe a bit early, wait till everything is built. Then I will look at the area when amenities start coming up. And at the end of the day, it's about whether the timing fits you. So if you're considering Vela Bay, feel free to reach out and I'll be happy to walk it through with you. Because the right move isn't just about property, it's about planning.